and welcome to this briefing. Today, we're going to speak about the PERF factor of the flight management system. The objective of this video is to understand the influence of the PERF factor on the flight. Here is my laptop. This is where I left it.
Hey Nicolas!
Hey Jean-Christophe.
I have a question for you.
Yes?
As a flight ops engineer, maybe you can answer me. Why do I have a PERF factor positive on this new aircraft that we received a few months ago?
Yes, I can answer you. But first, I need to explain to you what is the PERF factor.
Okay, fine.
The PERF factor is about the fuel predictions of the FMS. The prediction of the FMS are computed by a dedicated performance database, the so-called PDB, that is embedded on board, integrated in the FMS. The PDB is based on the in-flight performance IFP model, the engineering tool for performance that simulates the average performance level of a fleet of brand new aircraft. The PERF factor is then a corrective factor entered in the FMS in order to adjust the fuel flow provided by the PDB to the real consumption of the aircraft.
Nicolas, you said that the PDB was based on the in-flight performance model that simulates the performance level of a fleet average of brand new aircraft.
Yes.
So, why do I have a corrective PERF factor on this brand new aircraft?
Yes, you're right. As the PERF factor is a corrective factor, it may be at zero on delivery. But for some aircraft models, the PDB may not correspond to the exact IFP level of this specific model. This can occur when a common PDB is used for a family of similar aircraft models. And so, the basic PERF factor is inserted on delivery by Airbus in order to correct the fuel flow predictions of the PDB to ensure that they correspond to the real aircraft model. You see, the basic PERF factor is provided in a specific manual Aircraft Performance Data APD manual given to the flight ops department.
But the basic PERF factor is 0 for this A380. And I have +1 on my aircraft.
Yes, you're right. And this is because the PERF factor is the addition of the basic PERF factor inserted on delivery and a monitored PERF factor inserted by the flight ops department of the airline.
So do you mean that the +1 is a monitored PERF factor?
Yes, exactly.
But what does that mean, +1?
The +1 means that the FMS predicted fuel flow will be 1% higher when compared to the fuel flow provided by the PDB. This happens when the real engine performance of this specific aircraft are different from the IFP that is simulating the average of a fleet of brand new aircraft. In fact, every aircraft and every engine are a little bit different. The flight ops department analyzed via monitoring of the flight parameters that the predicted fuel flow of this aircraft, even if it is a brand new aircraft, was below the real flow. They analyzed that a PERF factor of +1, i.e. a predicted fuel flow increased by 1%, enable a correction of the FMS fuel predictions so that it corresponds to the real fuel consumption.
So, if the flight ops department analyzes the PERF factor regularly, and if they insert it in the FMS, should I check the PERF factor before flight?
Yes, you should check it. As it affects the fuel flow predictions, it has an impact on several flight parameters, as the estimated fuel on board, FOB, the estimated landing weight, the econ speed and Mach, and the optimum altitude. So it is an important parameter of the flight. If the PERF factor is not correctly inserted, these parameters and predictions will be erroneous.
Okay, but when I check it before the flight, what should I expect? How to be sure it is correct?
The PERF factor is most of the time 0 on delivery. Or it should be near 0, as seen before. On the contrary, a 5-year-old aircraft should have a positive PERF factor that can be between 3 and 5%, or even more, because the performance of the engine should be degraded with time. A good practice is to take a look at the computerized flight plan, CFP. The FMS PERF factor may be indicated in the CFP, and if it is not the case, the FMS PERF factor should be similar when compared to the CFP PERF factor, even if it's normal that they are not exactly equal. Also, after the flight, you should be critical when analyzing the fuel consumption. For example, at dispatch, take note of the FMS estimated fuel on board at destination. After landing, if you observe that the remaining fuel on board is more than the estimated fuel on board you took note, although you followed the FMS flight path all along the flight, this means that the PERF factor in the FMS is more than the necessary. From an economic point of view, it means that you transported more fuel than necessary. On the contrary, after landing, if you observe that your remaining fuel on board is less than the value you took note, although you followed the FMS flight path all along the flight, this means that the PERF factor in the FMS is smaller than necessary. From a safety point of view, this means that your fuel reserve is less than you predicted at dispatch.
Okay, I can update it then.
No. Airbus recommend that it is up to the flight ops department to calculate and insert the FMS PERF factor. However, you as a pilot should report to the flight ops department if you observe this type of difference.
Okay, thanks Nicolas. Now I understand better the use of the PERF factor. The PERF factor is used to adjust fuel predictions to the real fuel consumptions, considering that the aircraft and engine performances will degrade over time.
Yes, exactly. And it is not a tool to save fuel, but only to adjust the prediction to the real consumption. And as a pilot, even if you do not insert the PERF factor into the FMS, you have a role to play in the surveillance of the PERF factor. Also, Airbus recommends continuous monitoring by the flight ops department. By the way, Airbus can help the operators in the monitoring and the calculation of the PERF factor via a service of its subsidiary, NavBlue. We hope that you enjoyed this briefing
And see you around for the next one.